Bobby call the roll.
Cheryl Hentz,
Is that an appointment? Will be in soon.
Heidi Basford Kirkhoff,
Here.
Julie Kiefer,
Here.
Julie Davids.
Here.
Bryn Seaman is excused. Lindsay Temple is excused. Julie Maslowski,
Here.
Judy Ritchie,
Here.
Mike Ford,
Here.
Jean Wallerman,
Here.
and Michael Norton and Joanne Murphy Spice alternates are excused.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll have the approval of the February 1st meeting minutes. Does anyone have any additions or corrections? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on, citizen statements. Did you receive anything?
None.
Any public comments? We don't have any public here. So moving on, we will have our speaker. And Jean, would you like to introduce her, please?
Jesse, welcome. Welcome. She's the new city clerk. So she's going to talk about our elections and restructuring, etc. So welcome. I'm Jean Wallerman, and this is the group.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm Jessie Balcom, City Clerk. I just was fortunate enough to move into the position on January 4th because our clerk, Pam Ubrig, who served for more than 40 years, retired. So she left some very big shoes to fill, but I'm very fortunate because we have a really wonderful staff downstairs in the clerk's department. So they're bringing me along. So we're doing all right there. I guess one of the biggest responsibilities of the clerk's department is to run the elections for the city. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on in my presentation. Well, I guess I could tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in central Wisconsin, went to school for public administration and policy analysis, and I've always worked in the public sector. During college, I worked for the county in mental institution, and then when I got out of school, I worked for the city of Janesville for a couple of years as an analyst, and then the village of Elm Grove as the assistant administrator and the zoning and planning administrator. And then I moved to the village of Slinger, where I was the administrator for a few years. And then a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to get an analyst position here with the city of Oshkosh. So okay, 2 elections, sorry. This year, since it's an even numbered year, we have 4 elections. We already had our spring primary, February 15th, and for most of the city of Oshkosh, that just had the primary for the Oshkosh School District, because there were 6 people running it. It needed to get down to 4 for the spring election. There were a couple of wards that also had the opportunity to vote for the county supervisor. And then April, we'll of course have the spring election, which actually has quite a few things on the ballot. We'll have the Court of Appeals judge, the Circuit Court judge, the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, as well as our City Council and the Oshkosh Area School Board. In August, we'll have the partisan primary, and then in November, we anticipate a pretty big turnout for the November election, as it'll be the governor's race, as well as some other statewide races, so it should be well attended. One of the biggest changes or differences now in the city here is that after the federal census every 10 years, they redistrict. So they change the districts and wards for the voting to better realign due to population changes. So previous, for the last 10 years, we had 16 districts and 48 wards. And now this year, we've transitioned to 15 districts and 28 wards. So that means that just about everybody's district and ward numbers changed. And a good chunk of people, also the location at which they vote changed. So with that, we are trying to get the word out to everyone to go to myvote.wi.gov to find out where you vote, or just give us a call at the city clerk's office. We'll be happy to help you figure out where you go to vote. this is just a map of our 15 districts now. We actually have 14 polling locations because both District 2 and District 3 will be voting at Sunnyview Christian Church as of April. And then we also have one other polling location that actually changed since February, and that is the UW Oshkosh polling location was at Reeve Memorial for February. It's going to be at the Culver Center for April due to construction on Algoma. So I would encourage everyone before every election to just go to myvote.wi.gov and double check your polling location because things can move around for all different reasons. So, like I said, My Vote. My Vote is actually a really great website. There's tons of information that you can get on My Vote. You can find your polling location, which is what I'm going to show you. But you can also find your ballot once it's posted. The ballots for the spring election have not been posted yet. But once that happens, you can go there to see that. You can also see who the clerk is and how to contact them, as well as you can request an absentee ballot right on My Vote as well. But if you click on Find My Polling Location, you can either search by name, which then it will also ask you for your birthday, or you can simply search by address. So I went to the search by address, and I pretended that we all live here at City Hall. So if you lived here at City Hall and entered that information, it would tell you that you would be voting at the Culver Family Center. So what is also really nice about this is that it tells you your district, or your ward number, and it also provides a little map if you're not familiar with the location that you're going to vote. Like all of our elections, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and you have to have a photo ID to vote. Redistricting does not mean that you have to re-register. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. If you are a registered voter and you go to the polling location that you're assigned to, you'll be in that poll book. However, if you're a new voter, or you've moved or changed your name, or it's been a while since you voted, then you'll need to register or re-register, and then you would need proof of residence. There are several documents that you can use for proof of residence. Some of the most common ones that we see are the driver's license, which you can always use your driver's license if it's current for proof of identification. You can also use it for proof of residence if it has your current residence on it. A lot of times we don't get a chance to get that updated right away after we move. So if you still have your previous address on there, then obviously you can't use it to prove where you live now. Or you could use a Wisconsin issued ID if you don't have a driver's license. Or people oftentimes use utility bills or credit card statements or government documents such as like a fishing license are pretty common that we see as well. But there are lots of options that you can provide. If you can't make it out to the polls, our next election, April 5th, you can always choose to vote absentee. A couple different ways of doing that. By mail, of course. There are 3 different ways to get your ballot for absentee voting by mail. Again, you can go to My Vote and request a ballot right there. You do have to have a digital copy of your photo ID in order to do that on My Vote, but the simplest way is to just take a picture of your driver's license with your smartphone. If you're comfortable doing that, it works really well. Or you can download a ballot application from elections.wi.gov/forms and send that to us. Or you can always stop by and see us at the clerk's office. Just bring your photo ID and we can get you set up to get your absentee ballot mailed out to you. Otherwise, you're always more than welcome to come in and vote in person with absentee voting as well. That runs from 2 Tuesdays before an election through the Friday before the election. So this time it will be March 22nd through April 1st. We're actually not allowed to hold absentee voting on the day before the election, so you can't come see us on April 4th. If you haven't seen us by then you got to come on the 5th to the polls. And then this is a shameless plug. We always need poll workers. So if you are willing and interested, please give us a call or stop down. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about this paid position. It's a great opportunity to help ensure that people have the ability to vote here in Oshkosh and to help protect our democracy. So if you are at all interested, bring a friend and come down and see us. Does anybody have any questions?
I can make it around here again. I can make a couple statements and a question. I'll start with the question. Here in the city, the poll workers work from usually about 6:30, 6 or 6:30 to whenever everything is counted at the end of the day.
Yes.
And I know that as the poll workers age, that's more and more of an issue. When I lived in the town of Nakaima and worked at the polls there, we were able to have morning and afternoon shifts, which made it a whole lot easier and easier to recruit workers. Is that something that you would consider in the future?
I actually just wrote a letter to all my poll workers about this. So I've heard that from several of our poll workers, especially during the February election, that for many different reasons, shifts may be better for people. Unfortunately, between the February and the April election, I can't get the logistics done to find out when everybody's preferences are and all that kinds of things, but that is the goal for August, is to figure out the best way moving forward. So I actually that letter is probably going out today if it didn't go out yesterday, to anybody who volunteered to work the April election, letting them know that. So I haven't exactly figured out what the shifts will be. I'm still gathering information from people to see, does it make sense to do a morning with a lunch crossover and an afternoon, or how to do that. But we've heard that, and we're trying to figure out the best way to move forward. There are some logistical issues for the administrative side of that. Yes, I hope that we recruit more people, but it also takes more people to do it if you are going to do shifts. So we're hopeful that some of the people who are still capable and willing and able will continue to do the whole day. I mean, if you can't, or it just doesn't work for you, obviously, understood. We appreciate any time people, can give. As well as, we have to make sure that we have some continuity in that things are done appropriately so that the election is carried out correctly. But yes, we've definitely heard that, and we're working on it for the fall.
Because I have a friend who is, I think, one of the captains, has been trying to recruit me for a few years. And I did work the 2016 election. It was not the best experience because of some outside circumstances of one of the poll workers otherwise. But I just find that, myself even, that length of time being on point all day, I'm tired at the end of the day, and I'm more likely to make mistakes that could affect, especially with the observations today, could really affect something. And I would feel very bad about that.
I definitely appreciate that perspective, and I've heard that from others. And like I said, unfortunately for April, logistically, I don't think I can get that done well.
Right.
But
No, I
we're moving
understand.
forward with it.
Good.
Yep.
And another issue that I have heard is the observers. And I was trained the observers stand back a certain amount, and yet there were occasions of the observer actually trying to get their, pointing out directly into a book, the poll book. What is the right distancing and behaviors for an observer?
Well, observers are not allowed to impact the election. Like they shouldn't be making the job difficult. If they're assisting someone who's signing the poll book and stuff, they can't be, in the middle of that. But they do have the right to see what's going on and to see the poll book and that type of thing. So I guess it depends how busy it is. I mean, if there are voters coming through, then yes, they need to stay back a bit so that the election can go on sorry, the word's not coming to my brain. But if they're not causing an issue, then they do have the right to see what's going on and make sure that things are being recorded and all of that.
I just wanted the clarification, I think, so. And then the registering for the absentee ballots. I live in a 55 and up building, and I have over the last 2 or 3 years helped a number of residents, and being able to take a picture of the driver's license or the ID and upload it and get everything done that way has really saved a lot of hassle for a lot of people. So I think that's great. And the updating of the map in the districts, again, I updated the information that goes on the bulletin board in our community area, including the map, because, well, we used to vote at West High, and then it went to Father Carr's. Somebody that lives over at Carmel Residence by Bethel had also voted at Father Carr's, but this time it moved to the senior center. And so the confusion that ensued. So I think some of us, that work in aging or work in some of these areas, were more cognizant of it and did our best to inform people ahead of time. But the big article or ad that was in the paper was really helpful for many people.
We did put it in the Oshkosh Herald. They put a nice size in there. We ran it in the Northwestern 3 times, but unfortunately it was much smaller in there. We also have it on the web, the city's website, and then if you go to My Vote, it says it there. And it will actually be coming with the March utility bills as well, just a flyer of, hey, check out My Vote. So we're trying to get the word out. Please share with anybody that's interested to just, check out My Vote. Or if they're not comfortable using, that source, they can always call or stop in at the clerk's department. We're more than happy to figure out where they need to be. Or if they prefer, they can obviously vote absentee as well. That's more than welcome as well. So,
Cheryl, do you have any questions down there? I looked at that puzzled face.
Oh, well, I was thinking about one, yes. But first, I apologize for being late. I hope you guys got my
yes, we
note
did.
that I was coming from a therapy appointment. So, but fortunately, they were just down the street. So, so my question then is, what you're sending out with the March utility bill, just a thought, might you consider, and do you have the capability of, with such a short period of time, getting out a message, a flyer or whatever to everybody in their water bills that A, you need poll workers, and B, for the next elections, they can work half days. You might get more people if that goes out to everybody rather than just probably the shorter list that you're sending that letter to.
yes, the letter that I sent just went out to those poll workers that signed up to work in April, so that they would know that we're not going to go to the shifts just yet because of the logistics of it, but that we are planning to. And I will have to send something out to all the poll workers asking them about their availability in August, because even though most of them have told us yes or no for August, that might change if they find out, hey, I can just work the morning or I can just work the afternoon, or however we divide up the day.
Because I'm one of those people also, just like Judy. The last election that I worked was the presidential election. And I would love to work again, but, I've got dogs that I have to let out sometime during the day. Sure. And what they've been letting me do is just leave real quickly, come back after I let them out. But to just work a half shift, that would be wonderful for me. So.
Yeah, the March utility bills, that's actually already at it goes out much earlier than you would think. But I know I'm definitely planning to run the My Vote flyer again, or some version of it, in October, and maybe even in July. So we can maybe tweak it to try to recruit as well. That's a good idea.
The downside to that, not everybody gets a water bill.
Not everybody does, but through the paper and the website and the Oshkosh channel. We're doing our best, but you know, it's one of those things that if you're not looking for, you're probably not hearing. I mean, I'm open to suggestions if people have more ways to get the word out. But I mean, even when you send out individual, like we haven't sent out like an individual, hey, check your polling location. But a lot of that stuff people don't even open or read. So, you know, it's difficult. We're trying every aspect to hopefully get a little piece here and a little piece there. But really our best way is word of mouth. People discussing the election and saying, hey, did you know your polling location might have changed? Check, you know, just quick check on my vote before you walk over there or drive over, because it's frustrating if you've been voting at the same place for 10 years and you show up and they tell you got to drive. It's probably not real far, but you've got to get back in your car to go vote. You know, we understand that. That's where we're trying to get the word out ahead of time to people to, hey, take a quick peek ahead of time and save yourself some irritation.
And those of us on the committee and some of the other groups, we're here to help you get that message out. And that was one of the reasons we wanted you here today, is people have various means, whether they're watching Channel 10, whether somebody has seen it through YouTube or on Oshkosh Media. Every time we can get that message out, I think we're doing something to be helpful to the elders as well as to the city.
Yes, and it's very much appreciated.
I took up a lot of time. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jesse, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Old business. Does anybody have any old business? New business, current scams. Heidi, do you have anything?
Well, the one thing that I thought about talking about today is because of my job, I run into a lot of situations where family members are taking advantage of the elderly. Whether you have a grandchild squatting in a house that a grandparent owns and resides there, or a child that is taking out car loans in the parent's name, despite the fact they've been deemed incompetent. I'm seeing a lot of that, and so I had a doctor's appointment last week, and as I was talking with my, doctor, he said, it's interesting because I'll have people come through here and they will say that they feel like they're being taken advantage of, and the doctor doesn't know where to go with that. So, I mean, if you have a friend, if you have a neighbor that you think may be being taken advantage of, whether the individual is living with the grandparent or the older individual, or if they're sending letters. I had a friend who was receiving letters from his adult child that lived out of the city and begging him for money, saying he needed the money, or he wasn't going to be able to eat, or he wasn't going to be able to pay rent. And lots of money exited that account to go to this one child who kept pleading and begging, and where the parent was just guilted into that. So if you know somebody who may be in that position, I strongly recommend and encourage you to contact the ADRC. They're the ones that can help connect you to the people who can support and get more information from the elderly neighbor or adult that may be taken advantage of. I see it every single day.
And of course, where I worked before, yes, we heard a lot of that and saw it too. So
I think with COVID, it seemed to have made it worse.
I think so too.
Because there was a lot more people unemployed. I think because workers weren't able to go into the homes for quite a while, they couldn't see what was going on. I'm just seeing a ton of it now than before COVID.
And with this, we're talking a lot about the elders being abused in that respect. But looking at abuse in general, and I work with a particular organization that gets into a lot of homes, And what they're seeing is definitely not right, is not safe, but they tread the fine line between being a mandatory reporter and being able to provide the services to the individual so that they can maybe make a difference and move it in the proper direction eventually. And that becomes a really tough decision.
It's hard because the older individuals who are being taken advantage of, especially if there's a child or a grandchild living with them, will say, listen, if I wasn't here, you'd be in a home. And that's just a huge fear for a lot of people I serve is, I have to put up with this. I have to live with my cabinets being locked and I can only eat certain things or drink water or do certain things because if I step over that line and say no, or this is what I want, or this is what I need, they'll say, "Oh, fine, I'll put you in a home." There's always a threat there that can be very scary,
Definitely.
and they don't know where to turn.
Definitely. But the point also being that sometimes it's the elders that have maybe moved in with the adult child and are the abusers, the manipulators. So there are some
That I haven't
really,
seen, so
I
not that it doesn't exist.
but the dynamics of families have definitely changed a lot in the last 25 years or after I started. So anyway, does anyone else have anything on scams?
My nephew works at a bank, and he received a call from a customer that wanted to send some money, and Jake, my nephew, I'm very proud of him. It was at the end of the day, so he requested that the customer call back the next day. And in that time, Jake had talked to somebody and said, this doesn't seem right. Found out that the guy was going to send it because he was going to get an inheritance if he sent that money. They stopped it. The customer was upset at first, but came back 2 weeks later and thanked him for, stopping that process. So it's good to know that there are people out there looking out for others too. So,
Julie, can I piggyback off of that? Because I've been watching a YouTube video called Scammer Payback, and it shows an individual who is pretending to be an elderly man or woman and calls these call centers that are located on the other side of the world. And it shows you how they try to manipulate the older adult into trusting them, into making you sound just like my grandma or I love you, and to see how that works. I would, if anybody has YouTube, I would strongly encourage you to go and look at Scammer Payback. It's just really fascinating. And then he messes up their computers and deletes all their files, and that's fun too.
oh, that's good.
But most important, you can see how these individuals work in getting the trust of the person on the receiving end of that call.
And I don't know if you've been paying attention on the news that lately the tax, financial people are getting hit with scams claiming to be the IRS or whatever to change all this information and stealing money that way. I don't have all the details, but I keep getting all these
And
little
Social
blips.
Security.
Yep. Hmm. So definitely very interesting in that respect too. Anything else on scams? Okay. Any other new business? All right. Other business, upcoming events, whatever, for older adults? Julie?
Sure. I just wanted to put a plug in for MindWorks. MindWorks is a kind of like a respite program for seniors, and the library is a new partnership with it. It's through the Memory Project, Fox Valley Memory Project. So every Thursday from 11 until 2, people who have dementia, there's an opportunity for them to go to the public library and there'll be a greeter in the front door to meet them at 11 until 2, and then their loved one or their care person that's caring for them would take off and do whatever they need to do. And it's $10, and they get fed a really nice lunch from Rodney's. So it's a great opportunity for anyone living with dementia that needs some kind of socialization, and then also for their caregiver. And that's every Thursday at the library.
And Rodney's lunches are good.
Mm-hmm.
And he does so much for the community.
Does. Okay, Julie?
I have some really exciting news. Ginny and Doug, they're 2 residents at Bella Vista. They're getting married on March 15th.
Oh.
They want to shout out from the rooftops. They're so excited. So I thought that's just really great news to hear. So,
How old are they?
Doug is 78 and Ginny is 83.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't have anything, thank you.
I don't have anything.
Nothing?
No one can top my news.
No, that's not, not a high note, right?
Jean?
Just passing out our newsletter, and then we still have,
Cheryl.
we still have mugs at the senior center, so if any older adult would bring in a rug, and it's a partnership with the fire department, so they would get a mug by bringing in that rug. So if people want to drop off a rug at the south facility, we have the bin there, so we still have more mugs.
Okay. I have 2 different things. One is actually with the sheriff's department. And remember how the police department scored so well on their reaccreditation, and the fire department? Well, now the Winnebago County Sheriff's Department has. So we know that our first responders for law enforcement and fire and other emergencies, we've got some really top-notch groups here. So I think that's great. And the other, and I think because of another organization I'm involved with, I keep going back to a lot of the things with the Civility Project. And yes, Mike, I do.
That's good.
And Alex Hummel wrote an article recently that was in the Northwestern. And his mom had dementia, and he just was so grateful of the care that she got, the caregivers themselves, and everything. And so his comment was, caregivers teach us so much about civility. And if anybody wants to read it, I do have it as a PDF, and I can send it out. But I just think that's really great, because caregivers get a nasty comments at them periodically because people think they're not doing enough for, like Heidi said, sometimes that they're the ones that are doing the abusing and stealing or whatever. But most are really great people who are underappreciated, underpaid, and give a whole lot more than people ever realize. So I thought that was great. So I'm trying to bring the good news type things always in here, not just the scams. So
If you could send that to me, that would be great.
Yeah,
I would like it
I'll
also.
send it out to the whole group.
Okay.
And I think it's something to share. So I don't think Alex will mind at all. Okay. Is there any other business to? No? Okay, then I'll take them. Okay. The next meeting date is April 5th, and Kim Marini from the state ombudsman's program will be our speaker. And she was involved a lot in the past with the Alzheimer's and dementia groups, and now she's in Madison. So she's really looking forward to coming back and talking to our group and seeing some familiar faces. So we're really excited about that. So with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. I will motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next
you.
month.
What was Kim's name?